And that should be up. So welcome everybody to our session today about proctored testing, specifically about using the tool that we have for proctored testing exams in Blackboard. It's called Proctorio. Previous to this current academic year, we had been using a tool called Respondus Lockdown Browser, we used that for quite a few years. And because of the pandemic to some degree, and because of some disciplines requirements and the fact that the college actually helped students by giving them Chromebooks, and Respondus Lockdown Browser was not totally capable of handling Chromebook testing, we had to find a different solution, which is what we did. So Proctorio became our solution for this academic year. And let me just quickly say that actually today, we're going to have our first meeting where we're looking at a variety of proctoring solutions for the institution to determine that we have to put together an RFP, that's a request for a bid, and determine who's going to be our proctoring solution going forward. That would be as of basically July 1st. So we're in the throes of what we're going to do going forward with this kind of scenario. Suffice it to say that you need to know about this tool if you want to use it for this semester, because we don't have another choice as far as proctored testing. You can, of course, do alternate assessments, which I mentioned previously in the chat before we turned on the recording. And if you're interested in that, let me know and I can send you some resources for that. There might actually be some in the Padlet that I'm going to show you. I can't remember. And then generally at NCC, I wish I could give you some real hard statistics. Now, it's myself and Chris Flynn in online learning and ed tech that are sort of the administrators of Proctorio and also help troubleshooting it and things like that. He's really good at getting some statistical data. And I think we had a fair number of courses / faculty and students take Proctorio exams in fall. But of course, not everybody. If I were to just throw out anecdotally what I think the percentage of usage is at the college, that is the number of courses using Proctorio in the fall versus the number of courses or all the courses out there and the ones that don't, it's probably somewhere around 25 to 30%, I would assume. So it's certainly not everybody does it. You certainly don't have to do it on all your testing or assessments. You may have light assessments that don't require proctoring. They're more of, a learning, a formative type of thing rather than a summative thing. So it really depends. But if you feel a need in a high stakes type of assessment to have this kind of oversight, then Proctorio is your solution at the moment, all right?
It might not be for me, but I want to know about it anyway. So
Sure.
just thought,
Okay.
Why not? Yeah.
All right. So now that I've said that, tell me, I know that some of you have already started to use it. So which one of you have used Proctorio? And you can just pick up the mic or throw it in the chat.
I've used it.
Have not ever seen it. So
I've used it.
And has used it?
I've never seen it. I'm actually on here because if any of the adjuncts program managers have a question, I'd like to know what they're talking about when they ask it.
Okay. So you know that some of your adjuncts are using it, Ken, but you have not.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. Holbeck, did you not try it already? Or I thought
I'm trying it, but I really am not really comfortable in setting it up. That's
Okay.
what I'm hoping that you will direct me to better
No
learn
problem.
it, because I want to get on it, but I don't feel comfortable.
Okay. And Sharon?
I've used it with McGraw-Hill products, but not with Blackboard, so I'm getting a refresher.
Okay. So that's interesting you brought that up, because that was one other thing that I was thinking about saying is that I've mentioned that Proctorio is your solution for testing at NCC, proctor testing at NCC. It is only for Blackboard exams, basically. However, it's not necessarily the only solution out there, because some of you use alternate platforms, homework platforms, testing platforms, and things like that, that might or might not be integrated with Blackboard, right? And a few of those providers also provide their own type of proctored testing tool. I know that there was a few when we had Respondus, like My Math Lab, they used Respondus, but it was an internal thing to My Math Lab. I can't remember the other one. They had a different tool. So there are publishers and their sites and their platforms that have already integrated some of these tools that are out there. Try to remember. McGraw-Hill does integrate Proctorio. It's actually a lighter version of what we use, but and it would be different than if you used our version, Sharon. So I'm speaking to you specifically there. So if you do want to use our version with any McGraw-Hill content, let me know and we'll talk about that on the side. But you can use their version, which is very, very similar. It just maybe doesn't have all the bells and whistles that ours does. John had a question?
Yeah, that's been my problem because all my work that I have the students doing is in McGraw-Hill.
Okay.
None of it is really in Blackboard.
Okay. So I think, and again, maybe you need more guidance from your discipline, your cluster, and see what everyone else is doing relative to your area. But I would say if it was me and I had the opportunity to use the tool inside the platform, I would use their tool, okay, and not our Proctorio tool.
The way my course is laid out is that there, certain things that they need to do in McGraw-Hill.
Okay.
So they're specified.
Yes.
So everything is there, not really in Blackboard, except that I have them going from Blackboard to McGraw-Hill and then back so that they don't have to go out and in.
Okay. Well, again, if you're really utilizing that platform to a large degree, I would say try to use the tool inside McGraw-Hill. Now, that said, I'm sure that what we're going to go through today, you'll see some similarities, but I really would point you, John, to the instruction set that has come from McGraw-Hill about that tool.
Yep.
And or your colleagues that are using it. Okay. How about you, Sharon? How does that resonate with you?
Yes, I'll follow up with you and the sales rep, I guess.
Okay. So just to give you an indication here, there is one discipline, accounting, that has chosen not to use, because they use McGraw-Hill Connect, that has chosen not to use the tool in McGraw-Hill Connect and instead use the tool in Blackboard. A very wanky thing, but it works. So basically, they do take a test in Connect, but we create a Blackboard exam, and there's only one question in the Blackboard exam. That Blackboard exam has a link to the McGraw-Hill Connect test, but it's our Proctorio overlay, security overlay, that controls that part of the exam, but they're actually taking the exam in Connect. So that's how it works. It's a little convoluted. I've had to help a few people do it, and even the people I've helped once, I've helped them 3 times because they just don't get it as easily. So that's why I suggest doing it in the platform. Maybe you may be better off with it, but it's really up to you, and I'm happy to help you if you want to do it outside. Okay, so sorry for that foray into the abyss, but that was part of it. So let me introduce Proctorio to you by this. This is not the first time we've run this dog and pony show, but we created a resource throughout the semester last year because let me tell you, we all learned a lot about Proctorio on the fly, right? This tool came to us in like August 1st. We started having our first trainings internally, externally with you guys too on mid-August, and we started using it obviously in fall. So it wasn't until people really started using it that, all these questions came in and all these situations came in and all that kind of stuff. And we just had to start, reining in what was going on and we provided more instances of like this workshop, for instance, and other resources. But the primary resource for you and your faculty is actually Proctorio. All right, I'm going to suggest to you not to even engage our help desk at NCC. They certainly understand it to a degree and they know about it, but they're not going to be able to necessarily troubleshoot it specifically for either you or your students. Chris and I know a lot about it too, and we can help in certain ways. Sometimes we can even quickly see something that might be awry, and that's great. But when you're actually taking an exam, or they're taking an exam, they are best off utilizing the resources that you're going to see through Proctorio itself. Right? They have 24/7 help, and it's unfortunately not this way, which we all like, and we know can be really frustrating if you don't have somebody to really talk to on a phone or something. But it's an online chat, a live chat bot, and you do get a real person eventually. Usually there's some real person that comes on within a couple of minutes. They're pretty good with their service with that. What they're not really good at is always solving the problem, but their response is pretty good. In any case, there are a number of things that happen to many people that we call it the low-hanging troubleshooting fruit. And these people on that end can get your students through these things. But I'm going to try to familiarize you with some of these things too, so that, you know, if they come back to you, you'll at least know what to expect and how to prepare for it a little bit. All right. So I'm going to share this tool with you. Hopefully I have my capability on, and I do. Okay. So I'm going to share, let me do this too, just in case I get to a video or something like that. So hopefully you can see my Padlet.
Yep.
Those of you that don't know what a Padlet is, it's an online presentation / storyboard kind of tool. And it allows you to basically just throw posts up on a wall. And there's different formats for Padlets, but I've chosen one that's basically in columns. And you can see that our first column is just some information about Proctorio. The second column is talking about how do you set it up in Blackboard, particular help for instructors, and some help for students. Now, we don't share this with students, but we're giving you the help for students so you're aware of what's out there for the students, and possibly if you want to, you know, add additional resources in your courses for the students, you're welcome to steal this stuff in this Padlet. Okay. Now, Padlets are sometimes just a bunch of words, but sometimes there are also links embedded in the words. Sometimes the posts are actually links themselves, okay? We'll see, we'll go through that. So about Proctorio. So I've talked a little bit about it. I don't think we have to go through this, but here, if you wanted to, you can go to Proctorio's website and take a look at that offline. Talked about already RLDB. One thing I wanted to know, everybody to know, especially in fall, and it may be the case in spring, is if you were using Respondus before, you probably have some artifacts, especially if you've copied over from previous semesters. So do make sure that you eliminate those artifacts of Respondus so we don't confuse the students. And if you need some help changing a Respondus exam into a Proctorio exam, please see me about that. It's not hard or anything like that. Just a matter of you know, taking off the words in the title and then applying your Proctorio settings. And then always important for everybody, knowing what the system requirements are for Proctorio. This happens to be a link, so all I do is click on it and it's going to take us to that. Can you see that page, guys?
Yep.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks. All right, because I shared in a certain way, and sometimes I don't know if it shows when I go to a different thing. So this is just about the minimum requirements. It's all right here. They talk about this in things, all their documentation. And in reality, what we found is sometimes it's a problem and sometimes it's not. So we've seen many indications in students' exams, which you would also be able to see too. It's part of the information and analytics that they provide with every exam session, that students seem to not have a sufficient amount of memory, yet everything worked fine. And then in other times, when students do have trouble or glitches, it's probably because of either RAM or because of internet speed. Okay, so the second one. And the more settings you choose, that's probably not the best way to phrase it. Depends on the settings you choose, but there's no doubt if you chose all the settings, there's going to be a fair amount of bandwidth intensity that you're requiring of your students when they take that exam. Obviously, if you're asking them to use a camera, I think probably all of us have learned through this pandemic that cameras and video and other types of things like that are more bandwidth intensive actions that we're asking our students to engage in, including ourselves. So the more you turn on in the tool, the more it's going to possibly lead to some of your students having some difficulty. So I get asked this kind of question on a regular basis with Proctorio. So what do I do? And also, which settings do I choose? Which settings don't I choose? And we're not here to fully answer that today. You may see some documentation in the information and resources that we provide that, hey, here's a possible group of settings that you might want to choose, but we're not here to tell you what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And each of these settings has a little help related to them. You're going to see that in a bit. And you can find out what that setting does and decide, well, is this necessary or is it not? So my best information that I can give you, if a setting isn't necessary for your needs, don't use it, okay? What I can tell you for sure is you should have a sample test, right? And if you want to, even put everything on, it's up to you. I would probably put on the settings that I think I'm going to be using throughout the semester for my test 1, test 2, and test 3. But on my sample test, I put on the settings, and then you'll get a gauge as to 1, how it works for you and what kind of information it gives you, and 2, are any of your students going to have any particular problems? Also, you can do that simply. I mean, I like the idea. Many of the faculty told me that they were sort of surveying their students in the fall at the beginning of the semester, just to kind of get an idea. Are there any students out there that have any particular issues? Somebody have something to say there?
No, sorry, I'm just talking to the dog.
Yeah. Does anybody have any particular issues that I need to be aware of as an instructor as we go through the course and the elements we're going to be using in the course? So this is one way to gauge that, obviously, by actually having to take an exam. All right, going back to the actual Padlet. So how do you set it up in Blackboard? That's this column here. So here's an overview, and here's a little video. I don't think we'll watch that. You can watch that again, but watching me actually do it would be more helpful maybe today, correct? And then here's a little guide for you. Once again, this is a link. It's going to open up another web page, and here it comes. And you know, it's a text document. This was actually from Proctorio itself. I don't think that anything has changed since the last time we were using it and distributed this in the fall. I hope not. I'm pretty sure it really isn't. Just like any other tool you've been using, these guys do some updates as well and try to make the tool better or fix things that don't seem to be right. So obviously there will be some changes as time goes by. Sorry about that. I need to just back up. All right, so you've got those two things right here in terms of how you would set it up in Blackboard. The help for instructors. So this is being recorded right now, and I'll give everybody a link to the session afterwards. You'll get an assessment for the session, a little survey if you don't mind filling it out, and we'll also try to provide the link to the actual recording of this session. But we did these sessions back in August, and here's one that was actually done by Proctorio rep, and here is one that was done by us, and you're welcome to use those or look at those from here. If you click on that, it'll take you right to it. Here is a best practices tool, so guide. So here we're trying to say, here's what you might want to look at before you choose your settings. And this is what I was talking about, some parameters or whatever, but it's not a be all and end all. And I do really suggest to you that you look at what each one of the settings can and can't do. That might be a really better way to assess what you'd like to use and what not. But then knowing, you know, if certain things are going to be a little bit more of a bandwidth hit or possibly get in the way of something else or whatever. So just keep that in mind. One thing I can tell you, and if you may have already received a an email. The email was supposed to be directed or specified to instructors that had certain students with accommodation needs. So for instance, for somebody that needs a screen reader, we suggest that you don't use a setting called force full screen in Proctorio for those that need a screen reader. That's just an example of some things that we do know about. Okay, and then over here you have your help for students guide that, again, you can share with them if you want to. And I'll show you something when we get into a course. It tells them how they have to do it. Some of these instructions are right in your course because we put them in the boilerplate template for all the shells that we create for upcoming Blackboard courses. Okay, and here's a little bit of information of how they get to the help. Right. So that's that one. And then what else? Proctorio tips for test takers, another document. This again being student facing a little bit more. And then this particular thing about password troubleshooting. So one of the things we see often is that students get stuck on a page that seems to be requiring a password. Hey, that familiar from any of our Respondus Lockdown browser instructors? So
Yeah.
lo and behold, Proctorio uses the same tool inside of Blackboard for making sure that students aren't able to go into the test outside of Proctorio. So Proctorio actually steals the Blackboard password setting that you have when you go to your options page of your exam and utilizes that as a component for making sure it does not, that students can't get access to the exam outside of Proctorio. But that said, sometimes students just sort of get hung on a page that's asking them for a password. And we know now from experience that that seems to have everything to do with their connection to the internet, because when a student is taking an exam, there has to be this continuous web presence between the Blackboard exam that they're in and the cloud that is the Proctorio servers. When that connection isn't made, the mechanism just falters. And one falter is they get stuck on a password screen. So this sounds ridiculous, but my suggestion to people when they run into that is, did you try it 2 or 3 times? That is, go back and start the exam again. And believe it or not, by the 2nd or 3rd time, it might just work. And then if it doesn't work, making sure that they've got things set right with the extension in Chrome that they have to install, blah, 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 and going through these types of things. Restart your computer, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so there are some things we know about, and we're providing that information to you for your students. Okay, so that's the Padlet. That's a bunch of information. It's going to be at your fingertips because right now I'm going to put this link in the chat. And everybody can click on it and they'll have it on their computer. And then you could save it as a bookmark in your browser. All right, that's in the chat there right now. So what does it look like in a course? Let's do a flip. I have to stop this share. And we're going to flip to, any questions while I'm flipping to something else?
No.
Nope, we're good.
Okay, so let's go over here to some course areas. All right, so here's what it looks like in a current course. I've stolen one of our full-time faculty's BUSA courses, and notice that right now I'm on this page called Proctorio, which actually stems from a section that you will see in your Blackboard shell. Everybody, we put that in there for everybody. You may have deleted it or hidden it or something like that, which is fine. Actually, we might have set it up to be hidden because we know not everybody uses Proctorio, but should you want to use Proctorio, make sure it's not hidden. That can happen by clicking on this button here and saying show or hide. Obviously, it toggles from one to the other depending upon the state that it's in. But when you click on Proctorio, by default, you won't have any exams in here, but you will have this tool, which is part of Proctorio. and you will have this folder that says Proctorio Setup and Support. So this is stuff that's in every course. And here you go. This is what Proctorio is. That's all that is. And here's where you can download Chrome if you don't have it on your computer, because it only works in Chrome. And you need to have the Proctorio extension. And these are the instructions for that. And here's some support for test takers. Right? So this is available to your students. Now, what we suggested when we started using this tool, that it would be a good idea if you actually put your tests right in this Proctorio section of the course. But again, through usage, that was recommended by them, but through usage, we found it didn't really seem to matter. So what I would suggest to you is if you have your own little exam or test section over here in the menu, or you stick them wherever you want them in learning content, use whatever space you want. But I would suggest that these two items go in that space as well, if you don't use the Proctorio space for your exam. Okay. Now, the way this gets in that space is it's an actual tool. So you would come here to Tools, go over to More Tools, come over to this third column and choose Secure Exam Proctor. Click on that, and it's really just a link, all right? But it is a mechanism that needs to be there for the test to work, all right? You don't have to do anything else on this page, just submit it. We're told, and I think I verified this, the students don't see this, but you do, okay? And actually, it becomes somewhat beneficial because if for some reason the mechanism doesn't seem to be working for you or me when I'm helping people in a course, then clicking on this invokes a state of sort of diagnostic, we'll say, and it returns it should return an error that everything's working okay. I mean, not an error, a message that everything's working okay. If it doesn't, then maybe you have to reinstall your Chrome extension or something like that. All right, there's a troubleshooting for the instructors too sometimes. All right, but now that I've added that extension, where did it go? It came down here, right? I just wanted to show you how to do that on any page. I'm going to go ahead and delete it because we already have one there at the top. But this is what it may look like on your page once you have a couple of exams. Notice that the exams will automatically get this terminology in the title. You don't have to put that there when you say that you're requiring Proctorio settings for this exam, okay? So this instructor has indicated that for all of these exams, all right? Now, where do you see those settings? So this has already been done in this particular course, but it happens to be where all your other settings are for your exams. And I didn't ask this question, but are any of you not familiar with doing Blackboard tests at all? I'm not hearing or seeing anything.
Can you, okay, I know you can't see me, but you can hear me now, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I have used Blackboard for grades, for homework for students, for just basic things like that.
So you've never done an actual test in Blackboard, and it's called
No,
Blackboard test.
I've done mostly mostly face-to-face classes.
Yeah,
So whatever
of
test
course.
they take with me.
Okay, so I apologize. You may miss some of this, Kim, but we can go through it directly. But you're going to see a little bit of a little bit of the process of how this is done. I had a point to make regarding what you said, Kim, but it just went in and out. Maybe it'll come up as we go through the process. So once a test is created in Blackboard, I wanted to say that the terminology is test in Blackboard, but of course it can be a quiz. It can be even a let's get to know you type of survey or assessment. It can be anything. The mechanism is just called a test in Blackboard. So once you create a test, you then deploy the test in a space in Blackboard so that your students have access to it. So it's kind of a two-step process where you create the exam, put some questions in it, and then you put the exam somewhere that the students can actually take it. But all tests remain in a quote unquote test bank in your Blackboard course. But every test, once you deploy it, now has test options or settings. So the folks that have already done this are very familiar with all of these options and settings. All right, they have to put some type of instruction or description in there, blah, 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 blah. All right, is it available? Is it not? If you want to make an announcement, are you requiring or allowing multiple attempts? Does it have to be completed all in one setting? Do you have it timed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all these things are part of Blackboard's options or settings. Now notice, for those of you that have seen this before, that this check mark is grayed out. Notice that this password area is grayed out. Proctorio is taking control of that because Proctorio is set to be on for this exam. Here's a couple other settings by Blackboard, 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 Blackboard. And here's where it usually ends as far as Blackboard is concerned. But look what we got now. We've got some Proctorio settings because this is a Proctorio exam. So here's your quote unquote behavior settings. We're going to get into that in a minute. Here's some metrics of which you can review their exam by. Okay. Here are the abnormalities that you can choose to indicate or not indicate. And then finally, here are the actual real settings that are going to be applied when the student's taking the exam. So there's recording settings, there's lockdown settings, there's verification options, and there's these other tools that you can make available to the student. So this instructor has decided that by way of the fact that most of these are black, which means they're on, this tells me that the instructor wanted this test to be relatively secure and not allow the students much leeway. This little summary here can actually verify that for you. The less secure it is, the less number of these little shields you'll see here. Also, as I indicated, the more you do, the more this little spectrum or spectrometer will go over to the right, indicating a lot more bandwidth might be required for this exam. So for those of you that have used Respondus and have not used Proctorio, you could see this is sort of Respondus on steroids. We didn't have so many options in Respondus, right, John?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to get out of here. Is there any questions so far?
No.
Okay, now I'm going to move to, let's see. I'm just going to show you this. This is a Spring 21 course that's totally unadulterated. Oh, good. I'm glad I did that because you could see this isn't even running. That when we do set it up, we set it up as being hidden from the students. So if you are going to use Proctorio and you want that open, just make sure that you show the link to your students so that it's visible on the student's navigation menu. I don't think I have anything else to show. I'll just quickly, for Kim's benefit, in course tools here is where your test bank resides, Kim.
Okay.
Test surveys and pools and the tests. If there are any, they'd be listed here. And here's where you can build one from or import one from either you might need help if you do it from a publisher or from maybe somebody else that you know that has Blackboard exams in your discipline, and they might be willing to share one with you or theirs with you. You can import them into your course. All right, so I'll stop using this particular course because I don't think I'm going to do anything in it, and let's go over here. So this is a little demo training course that we use. It's been around for a while, so it doesn't look exactly like our Spring 21 courses look now, but indeed it does have a Proctorio folder, right? We recommend that your exams be further up in the menu than further down in the menu. Again, one of these little witchcraft kind of little things that Proctorio has said, the higher up in the menu, the more priority Blackboard seems to give things and the less kind of problems we see. So that's why we've added Proctorio way up here near the top, right under the course home in the menu. All right, But you could see this one has a couple of things set up already. And I'm just going to just jump over to learning content. I don't know if we have anything set. Oh, okay. So we actually do have an exam set up here in learning content. So it does exist here as well. So I just wanted to see if there was a secure exam proctor tool. No, there's not. All right. But let's go ahead and create one right here in Proctorio. So again, I beg your pardon, I'm jumping around a little bit. I'm going to go to the test bank that I just showed in the other course, and you're going to see there are a number of tests already in this particular course. All right, so I'll use this one because it's not already deployed. So I'm going to be looking for a p-test. But once you have any tests created, you now go to the space in which you want to deploy them. So we're here in the Proctorio area, and we go up to assessments and we click test. All right. Any undeployed test in the test bank will show up right here under add an existing test. But if you want to create one on the fly, you certainly can. We're going to pick this p-test. Okay. We're going to come over here and just submit that. All right, and it says we've just created in the Proctorio section, and it's only doing what you're seeing right there because I've actually am using a test that had some Proctorio settings already applied. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take them off real quick, and then we'll go through the motions on this one. All right, just so you can see, once you deploy an exam in a space where the students are going to have access to it, the first thing you need to do is go to the test options. And this is Proctorio and everything else, Blackboard, all right? And decide, what kind of information you want to give them about the exam. It might be for chapters 1 through 36. That's pretty damn comprehensive. Do you want to make it available yet? Even if you do want to make it available, you can always come down here and say when it's available, display, at different times up to and after. We'll just make this display through tomorrow for now, right? And then all your other things that you want or don't want for the exam. Again, notice because Proctorio settings are applied, that I can't do anything about these two areas, right? We're not going to change anything else. It is a good idea to put a due date in, so let's do that for tomorrow. Because then that kind of information shows up on the course homepage for them. Yo, kids, you got something to do. Got this kind of stuff. You can decide what type of feedback and results the students see, all right? And whether you're presenting all at once or one at a time with prohibiting backtracking and randomizing. Now, watch what happens here. I'm going to just take this off, okay? And we'll go back up and you'll see I now have password usage because I'm not requiring Proctorio. And I now can even uncheck the timer if I want to, okay? So this is what it would look like without Proctorio. And notice even the name, the title has changed automatically. All right, so I just created this exam and I want to apply Proctorio to it, okay? So I come down here, I do everything. And here's another thing that Proctorio will warn us about. I just want you to see it. I'm gonna switch to one at a time, all right? And then put on remote proctoring. And look what it does up here. Proctorio recommends this thing. Well, guess what? Bunko. Choose whichever one you want here and disregard what it says here. We have also found that, people like in nursing, they really want to do this because it gets the students in the mode of doing their NCLEX exams and other things because they can't show their items all at once. So they have done it, and they had problems? Yes, but we don't think it's related to this setting. All right. So I'm not going to say they haven't had problems, but we don't think it's because of this setting. And it turns out that one of the last conversations we had with Proctorio bigwigs back in December, they actually even said, no, we think that it might be better if you actually do show it one at a time. So they even went back on what their claim was originally. And let me just tell you one of the reasons. So there are some tests, and you may have some, that actually might be image intensive. And you can imagine if you put an image in your Blackboard questions or your tests, that takes up some bandwidth too, especially if you didn't take the time to possibly make that image as low of a resolution as you could. Again, I say as you could, that is, so that it wouldn't take up too much bandwidth when it shows up on a page. But also, if you need high res, depending upon what you're doing, like in anatomy or something like that, we don't want you to lower the resolution beyond a threshold of it being well seen. But the lower the resolution that you put in an image on an exam page, the less problem you may see with that exam as well. It's just a good rule of thumb. In any case, that's why they said to us, do it all at once, because let's just say that there was 25 questions and all 25 questions had an image. If we were doing it all at once, then obviously that all those images are showing up on the Blackboard page at one time. And I'm only giving you this information because this applies to other things too. So I want you to try to get an idea of how you should be thinking, like when you're doing some stuff. It could be on a content page too. Some of us are really fond of embedding things on our content pages in Blackboard, but sometimes that can slow down the experience for our students. So be aware of what you're doing on a page in Blackboard to make sure that we're providing bandwidth equity across the board to our users that might be stymied in certain ways. All right, didn't mean to go off on a tangent there, but now that we have this on, now we can go and decide what settings do we want for this exam. So recording options. Again, all we have to do is click on this little question mark. It's going to open up a Proctorio support page for you, and it's going to tell you what it's all about, recording video. Matter of fact, it's even going to give you a video about recording video. And then there's some information down here and a couple other links, blah, 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 blah. All right, get the gist. Same thing for audio. Same thing. Well, what does record screen mean? Okay, well, let's click on that question mark. And lo and behold, there's a video about that. Right? Obviously, there's no more information about that. But record screen is just that. It's going to actually, how many of you done video recordings for your classroom where you've recorded both your face and what you're doing on your computer? That's basically what's happening here. So they're basically monitoring now everything the student's doing on the computer by recording the screen. Again, you decide to what degree of security you want. The more you put on, the more secure it's going to be. Do you want it to record their web traffic? So it's going to give you a little report at the end that, how much traffic they had and did they go to other things, blah, 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 blah. Right? Recording the room, that is, we call that an environment scan in Respondus Lockdown Browser Monitor, but it basically shows, asking the student to show what's going on around them so that you can see what their space looks like, any crypt notes or other things. Sometimes I've watched some of these recordings and you have a student, they've got, they have their phone like right over here and they're looking at the test question and they're going over to their phone, doing something on their phone and then they're going like, So a lot of interesting things we have seen already. There's no doubt about it. And some of them are not shy about hiding it as well. It's really kind of weird. But let me say this. Keep in mind that there's a lot of things being said about proctoring tools, especially since the pandemic. But keep in mind, if nothing else, what we're trying to do is just say to our students, hey, academic integrity is something we take seriously. It's something you should take seriously. And we want you to know that, don't mean to be big brother, but we're I hate to even use the term we're watching, but guess what? In a brick and mortar situation, when you're in that classroom, what are you doing? You're watching. So it's really no different. Is it a little invasive because it's at their house? Sure. Okay. But that's really what we're trying to portray here, that, we're just making sure, or even if you don't look at these videos, we're at least giving the sense that, hey, we've put a lock on the door. You know, that's not going to keep the burglar from coming in and finding nothing in my house. I don't know about yours, but the lock is there to slow them down, make them think twice. That's why you put your little, ADP. What are some of those security things out there? You put a little sign out on your front lawn, you know? It's not going to stop anybody from coming in or doing what they want to do, but it helps. But should you have a problem, you obviously now do have something to look at because there's going to be some evidence. Okay, it's up to you how you decide to use the tool. Now here we have our lockdown options. And before I go on, do you have any questions? Better stop and pause. Does anybody need a bio break? It's a good thing to say during a session. And we're already at 12, so we only have a few more minutes. I guess you're all good, okay? So here are your lockdown options. This is the setting that I indicated if somebody has an accommodation profile where they need a screen reader, this will inhibit that. So you can't have that on. If you've got more than one monitor like I do, you're making sure that they can only use one of those monitors so that they can't go into other tabs. Keep in mind, this tool uses Google Chrome. The previous tool, Respondus, was its own installed application, and students couldn't use Chrome. They had to use the Respondus browser. So the fact that you're using Chrome, and which is, you know, a global tool, means that if they're in Chrome, they might be able to actually do other things and go to other pages. So if you need to lock that down, that's what these tools are for. This is always good to make sure that they don't print off your exam, even though it wouldn't be easy if you were just in Blackboard, but the fact that now you've got this Chrome overlay, it makes it a little bit simpler to print out an exam. Still not easy. Do you want them not to be able to copy and paste stuff? You know, those kinds of things. So that's what all these things do. And then if you want them to verify who they are. So this goes not just, we've talked about these two words together sometimes, integrity and verification, okay? How many of you might be familiar with BioSig? That's a verification tool. You know, we're making sure that the student is who they are. So you can utilize this tool to help you verify that the student who's supposed to be taking the exam is, right? Help you, I said. It's not also a be all and end all. It doesn't check anything. It's up to you maybe to look at their if they show excuse me, if they show an ID, that the picture that's on that ID, and you know, you ask them to verify. Even if you choose it, it's not verifying anything. It's just giving you an opportunity to look at it. You're doing the verification. But at least that the picture that's there might relate to the picture in their video, that kind of thing. But it's really up to you how much of this you feel is required. We don't require really finding out whether a student is verified, right? We don't require that. We suggest it is a good thing to do from time to time. That's why we had BioSig. It's not a bad idea to use it as a verification or integrity tool at various times in your course. Okay. What else was I going to say about verification? Can't remember again. Jesus. All right. So those are your verification options. And should you decide that you want them to have access to a calculator or a whiteboard, there's actually a little mechanism that pops up when the student takes the exam. It's a small box that floats. They can move it around. If video is enacted, you've requested video, they'll actually see a thumbnail video of them, so it shows them what they look like to the recording option. And along below that video, they'll see some tools that you might want to have them have access to. Those tools would be available right there. It also has a button for them to connect with support right there in that little box that floats on top of the exam. So there are a couple of ways for them to get help should they need to. Right? Here are all of your real settings that are involved while the student is taking the exam. Okay? Afterwards, And now, of course, you can determine these settings, but the settings that you see here about behavior is really how, while the session is going on, how the proctorial tool is monitoring what it's seeing within the student, both on the screen and with the video, and providing for you a relative and maybe relevant score, which Respondus Monitor did too, as to how potentially they might be cheating. And as you can see, there are a couple of different canned possibilities as to how restrictive you want those behaviors to be. You're not controlling the behavior, although in some instances they'll get some indication that they're not in view of the camera or something like that. But you can decide how lenient or strong these behavior settings are. And again, it doesn't impact anything during the exam. It monitors it all anyway. It's really when you review the results on the backside, how easily or more difficultly a flag is determined. And you can actually change these settings after the exam is done and you're actually looking at the quote unquote Proctorio gradebook. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. Okay. So initially, when you do this, I would just choose the recommended settings. Again, it can always be modified afterwards. If you choose custom, that's what these metrics are for. So these are little guides, spectrums, and you can change from left to right how strong or light you want each of these things to be, that they're navigating away from the test. There's certain keystrokes from copying, pasting, all the types of things that they might do during the exam will show up again in the results that you review after the exam, right? Again, here's some other abnormalities that might come up and you can control. Again, you can't control it during the exam, but you see it afterwards in the report and you can decide what you want on, what you want off. Same thing with these environmental things, what you want on, what you want off, and also these other technical things, okay? So that's, in a nutshell, all the different things that you have access to in order to put and apply settings to your exam with Proctorio. So I'm just going to go ahead and submit this. All right. And here is our exam. All right. Now, I can go in and take it because I'm an instructor in this course, but it's really not going to work for me completely. All right. I'm going to begin. And here, you notice that password thing popped up real quickly. Sometimes that's where they get stuck, but it's supposed to move very, very quickly right here because it's Respondus putting that password in. Sorry, it's Proctorio putting that password in and now taking control. So now it's saying, hey, this exam is going to be monitored by Proctorio, but unfortunately, as a instructor, I really don't get to see the full boat here. Okay, but I can still go through and actually get to the exam by clicking submit here. Yes. Yeah. And it's going to take me to the exam and I can get started and blah, 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 but that's it. So what I'm going to do right now is let's get back to that Proctorio folder. All right. And let me go ahead and take this as a student preview. I think it will work for me. And go over to Proctorio. Of course, you're going to tell the students where they're going to find the exam, right? And here I am. Now I can take it as a student. Notice that, all the editing controls are not there because I'm a student. I go into the exam, blah, 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 and I click begin. Poof. It still isn't going to work. I kind of had a feeling that it wasn't going to work simply because it doesn't really know me even as my student preview. So I apologize for that. Let's take a look now at what a Proctorio gradebook looks like. I think I have one in here. Let's exit that preview. Let's do that just in case. Okay. Now, when you go to your grade center, which is where all the test results go, I'll just bring up tests as a subset of the entire grade book. All right. And here we have a couple of tests that we've done in here already. But let's look for that P test. Since I just deployed it, where should it be? All the way at the end, and here it is. And here was me trying to do it, okay? But you're not really seeing anything. So look what we've got here, all right? When we go to that, at the top here, or when we're in a cell within the column, we have now a Proctorio gradebook. So when you click on this, you actually get, I think it's going to tell me it's not going to find any results in this one. So I got to look for one where it does have some results. Yeah, see right down here, it's saying it really hasn't been taken. So this isn't going to work, Dumbo. All right, so let's go with one that has been taken. I'm hoping this is true. So let's go ahead and look at the grade book for this one. Come on, work for me. For some reason we took it away, but okay, at least you get an idea what we're going to see here. When it works and you actually have some results, down here in this white space, you're going to see each student's test, all right? And within each student's test, you can click on that one student and you're going to get the full report of their exam session, all right? That's the grade book itself. There will be red marks, yellow marks, green marks, depending upon the flags that have come up. Also depending upon those flags, how strict or lenient they are, remember we saw that, on these settings. So if you're seeing too many flags and you're saying, ooh, maybe I made the behavior is a little bit too stringent, then all you have to do is click on this button like lenient, and all of a sudden the flags that you would see here now have turned less aggressive. They might have turned from red to yellow. You also see like percentages on the right-hand side. One of the columns would indicate potential percentage of cheating, if you want to call it that. That's not really what they call it. But then you have all these other things too. You can see a map of where the test takers are taking their test from, some different display options, and you can even export this gradebook if you need it for purposes of reporting something or whatever the case may be. All right, that again wasn't the best example. So one more time, I'm going to see if I can find something where there is some real results. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, let's go one more time. That one here. I don't know if this one's going to be any better. Hey, we got one person here. Okay, so this is what it would look like. May not be very impactful, but depending again on what you chose as your settings, you're going to see a video of the test taker. All right, this is more or less a bit by bit, almost like a transcript, I guess you could call it. But then you have all these other tools that you can check, again, depending upon what you have asked for in your criteria when you set up Proctorio. This is a timeline. You can see it's pretty green. I didn't do anything nefarious, but then you get all these other things down below as well. So this is a very limited view of all the possibilities you might see in one person's exam results, okay? Because mine, we just did this very lightly, if you will, and I probably didn't go but one step into the exam just to give you an idea here. But most of the real activity that you would see, you're probably going to have some yellow or red marks here. And if you click on it, or you use your buttons here to play and go forward, and just real quickly, you can see it's fast forwarding and it's watching me and blah, 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 blah. And also if you're doing any pre-exam checks, or if you're doing any of those verifications, you're going to see those pieces in here as well. So it's all going to be there for you to review and look at and make some decisions upon if necessary. So again, try the test, that is the practice test. And hopefully that will really, give you a better idea of its usage. It'll give your students a better idea of what to expect. And then you can really tweak a little bit afterwards for the real exams. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and just see where we got. Did I put anybody to sleep? Did you have you might have gone away for a cup of coffee because I wasn't watching your videos, John.
I'm here.
Yeah, was that good? Was that helpful? Did I not show anything you were hoping to see?
I have a question. When you do course copy,
Mhm.
do all those settings remain the same?
They do.
Okay.
They do. There's a little cheat thing in there that I didn't show you either, but if you think that you want to apply the same settings for future exams that you make, you can create your own profile for Proctorio with all those settings. And then you don't have to go and click on every one of those things. You just apply the profile.
Okay.
Keep in mind that that profile exists in your Chrome browser. Now, what I didn't show you was, if you haven't done this step yet, how to install the Chrome extension and make sure it works and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty simple. So you have the instructions for that. I don't think you'll have a problem doing that on your own. But if you do, you know that we have walk-in, drop-in sessions, 12:30 to 3:30 every day. Does anybody need the link to that? I can put it in the chat. And you can reach us at nccedtech@northampton.edu. You're welcome to reach out to me directly. However you want to get in touch with us, there's so many ways. Go ahead, Kim.
I have a quick question. So the link, remind me, the link to get on for questions this afternoon, is it the same one as this one? Okay, I can do
No,
that.
no, it's not the same one as this one. This
Oh.
is exclusively for training sessions and
Okay.
workshops. So let me give you that link. Give me a second while I go find it on my desktop. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I'll do that again. Okay. Where'd you go? There you are. Okay, I'm putting it in chat right now. Okay, so this is the link for our drop-in sessions, 12:30 to 3:30, Monday through Friday. Sorry, we don't do sessions on the weekend.
Okay, what's the link?
It's in the chat. So open up the chat
Oh, okay.
and copy and paste it, or click on it,
And just write it.
have it in your browser.
Yeah, okay. Oh,
Okay.
it's 9476. Okay.
Yep, ends in
Right.
653. All right, and you have the link to the Padlet in the chat too.
1099.
Any other thoughts or questions? So Ken, you gonna be able to help your adjuncts?
I hope you're just talking to him, not to me.
No, he's not. He's gonna tell his adjuncts.
Oh.
Click on the Proctorio help. So let me just show that real quick, okay? Just because
Okay.
it's the most obvious thing you probably should see. Okay. Let's go back here and go back to that course. So here we were. Let's go over to where we were looking at the exams, blah, blah, blah. All right. So as long as everything's working just fine, up here in the top right of the Chrome browser is where the tool resides. All right. And notice that when I clicked on it, Proctorio shows up. So this is not something unique to Chrome. For those of you that aren't aware, there's a lot of back-end things that you could stick in your Chrome browser to help make connections, blah, 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 blah. All right. We're not here to talk about all of them, but Proctorio is just one of them. So they're utilizing a mechanism inside of Google Chrome is what they're doing. But you click on this little puzzle piece and then click on Proctorio and look what it does, right? If that doesn't come up, something's foobarred on your computer, all right? Reinstall the add-in, the extension, and try it again. But if you get this, you can go to their website, help and support, or you can open up a live chat by clicking on that button. And your students have the same capability once they've installed the Chrome add-in. And they can't take the test without the Chrome add-in. Okay? Hope that helps.
Okay. Well,
Any,
I'm gonna get, I have to get going
okay,
so that I can come back later for help. All right, so.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you very
you're
much.
welcome, guys. Thanks for being a part of this. I'll turn off the recording.
Okay. Thanks.
If anybody needs